Hey, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Toby?
Good, brother. Thanks so much for joining us. This one's going to be really cool. I've been meaning to reach out to you for like probably 3 weeks now. I know I
Yeah.
told you that. You're probably like, the heck is this guy talking about? Like, I literally, so no joke, I had a dream that we did this interview. Like,
Oh,
that's,
really?
yeah, that's how much it meant to me. So I know I don't tell
Oh,
you
that's
this
awesome.
often, but man, I really appreciate you. I appreciate all of the great stuff, the great content that you post. Everything's super inspirational, and I know that you've got. I mean, I can just like look in your eyes and just see that history, man. I know you've got some really deep history there, and that just been a warrior for a very long time in a lot of different respects. And I definitely haven't fought any battles or anything like that, but I've battled some other stuff, and I just really admire you, man. So I wanted to do this interview because I know it's the closing of the year and the beginning of a new one, and a lot of people are trying to figure out where they want to be, trying to figure out how to be the better versions of themselves, and all that good stuff. And I think oftentimes we put a lot of emphasis on trying to figure out how to do things that we think are going to make us better at whatever it is we're trying to achieve. But I really think at the core, it really just comes down to just like mindset and doing
Mhm.
the simple disciplines. So I know that you're a guy of discipline. I know you're going to have a lot of like cool stuff to say. So let me pull up the intro bio on you for the people that didn't read it. So you're obviously married to your beautiful wife, Diana. You guys have two incredible twin boys. I didn't know your boys were twins, but
Yeah.
it makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a former Army Ranger with 7 combat deployments,
hmm
uh, former overseas security contractor for close to a decade, 10 years. And then obviously you're an entrepreneur. You've got the cool brand Wooby Hoody. So definitely check that out. Not a shameless plug. It looks like it's super awesome, and I will be ordering some today. And then you're a real estate investor. So, man, thanks so much for being here. So, we'll just kind of dive right in. I know we typically don't do intro stories, but I do want to take it back, just so that people can really understand like the magnitude of getting to where you are now, where you're going, and all of that. They really need to understand who you were before that. So take us back, man. What was it like being 7-year-old Timothy?
uh, Man, I think for the most part, I grew up pretty normal. I mean, I grew up in Southeast Kansas. Uh, Moved a couple times, switched schools. By the time I was like, I don't know, high school, middle school, high school, I started getting in trouble. I kind of looked at it as like, typically what any boy is going to be doing, just out causing problems. And, looking back now, I see that I kind of took it a lot farther than most people did. And I ended up on juvenile diversion when I was 17 years old. And like my whole goal from the time I earliest I can remember was I wanted to grow up, I wanted to join the army, I wanted to be a ranger. And it kind of hit me right before my senior year because I was on juvenile diversion. They're like, "Hey, you mess up one more
what
time, like
what
you're
is
done."
juvenile diversion? What is that?
It's probation for minors.
Oh, probation. Okay.
Yeah. So we got me and some friends got in a lot of trouble. Ended up on that. So for like the next year and a half, it was like, I was on the straight and narrow. I had to do everything right, not a single mistake. So that's when I really started like, you know, implementing all this discipline. And I used that. I made it the year and a half. I remember getting the call that day. I was at work. My diversion officer called me and she's like, "Hey, you did it. You're done." And I packed everything up, went straight down to the recruiter. I was like, "Hey, I'm ready to go right now." So, uh, yeah, so I got out of there as quick as I could to kind of save my own ass. But yeah, joined the army. Let's see, basic airborne. It was called RIP at the time. Made it through all that. I ended up in Second Ranger Battalion. I did, yeah, 7 deployments there, 7 total between Iraq and Afghanistan. And I got out, and that same year, I got picked up and started doing security contracting overseas. It was a good fit, and yeah, just fell right into that. It was great. The work was great. It was really fun. It was, definitely what I like doing. You're thinking constantly. You're active. It's very dynamic. It's not like a factory style job, where you take this bolt, put it in this hole, and just keep going.
Mhm.
So that was cool. And then that whole thing fell apart during COVID and all that. So I kind of came home. I was married. We had our boys. I came home with no job and was like, okay, we need to figure something out. We started Wooby Hoody, but it was just kind of like a pastime. It was a hobby. It was a side hustle. And my wife and I got to talking, and it was like, we got to figure this out. So we started growing Wooby Hoody. I was like, I need some passive income immediately. So that's kind of what got me into the real estate investing. And now here we are.
Wow, that's a lot of life in a minute and a half there. So you talked about the discipline factor. I mean, obviously going from the juvenile diversion status and then making it in. I mean, what was that like at that time for you to just make that switch? Like I look at like different pivotal moments in my life, and one of them was when I was 17, 18, and my mom passed away. And it was just like I went from thinking, all right, I want to go to school, become a doctor and do everything that everybody else told me that I should do. And I went from that to saying, I just want to go be happy. Like I want to do, whatever it is that I want to do. And so like that was a pivotal moment. So was that one of those like pivotal moments where you like dug deep, started reading books, or, I mean, how'd you get to that point from being this like, bullheaded kid to saying, all right, I got to focus so that I can get to the next level?
I think a lot of it is, and as I'm looking back now, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I kind of talked about that the other day on our call, and just kind of going back and finally sitting down and looking at all this stuff, and thinking about where I was and remembering my mindset at the time. And I think whenever that diversion point hit, that was like that was when I first did it, of kind of like just changing my mind, like just immediately changing my mind, and almost like changing from drive to reverse, just throw it in a new gear and start going. So that was when it first really started, and I didn't quite realize what I was doing at the time. It was just something of like, I have these bad habits, I need to change these bad habits. The only way I can do this, like, I'm not just going to start doing something else. I have to replace this habit with something else. So instead of just trying to drop this, I just replaced it. I started going to the gym all the time. I moved in with my dad because he lived the next town over, so I wasn't around all my friends. I wasn't in that circle of people constantly. And like I planned out my whole day for that whole school year, to where I was up working out, doing my homework, early morning weights, staying after school to work out, going home, hitting up the Y, doing my homework from that night. I was cooking my own meals and everything, and just kept myself so busy that I wasn't tempted to go back and start doing all this stuff that got me there in that first place. And it was just that, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I need. Change gears. Okay. And it was like that. And I use that now to this day of just like, okay, what am I doing that's working? What am I doing that's not working? I don't have to be married to this idea or this pattern that I'm in, or this routine that I have. I can just change it. I can change it right now as soon as I want to, and be done with this bad habit and start with this good one.
So when did you, like for me, after my mom passed away, I didn't realize that either. So I know that, like, I asked you that and I wanted to get an exact answer, but now that I'm reflecting, I didn't realize that. I just knew that I didn't want to keep doing the stupid stuff that I was doing. I was getting into some trouble too, and started doing some really dumb stuff. Ended up not dropping out of school. I was at Baylor on full ride scholarship, dropped out of school, didn't want to do that anymore, and just got into some really dumb stuff. Some people look at it and say, all right, it wasn't even that crazy. Like, you're still like the Carlton from Fresh Prince, but, but I got into some dumb stuff, but I didn't realize at the time that me like going to the gym, like you said, starting these little micro habits, like, you know, something as simple as swapping out, you know, donuts with oatmeal and stuff like that, and starting these little micro habits were building me up for the now, right? Where I have this awareness of, you know, more of like my situation and my emotional well-being and things like that. So it's pretty cool that you said that you just kind of did it like out of necessity. I think
Yeah.
a lot of us, you know, that necessity is there for that change, but we avoid it. So, like, I definitely commend you for that. But for like the people that are listening and are in a situation now where, you know, may not as be as like, you know, they're in their crazy teens and doing stupid stuff, but maybe they're in a W-2 job that they're sick of and they want to be full-time in real estate, or maybe they're want to take a jump into multifamily, or want to take a jump into, you know, growing or starting a business, or just something that's been tugging at their heart. I mean, what kind of micro disciplines do you think it would take to get there? Because I know a lot of people talk about just going out and taking massive action, and that definitely has its place. But I think a lot of your success was probably like founded on those micro disciplines that you started a long time ago.
Yeah, I think I mean, one of the big things for me even to this day is like I stack wins. I set my goals, I know what my goals are, and even if it's something small, something that may be irrelevant to, you know, somebody else, like I'm just not going to eat a piece of chocolate today. You know, that's my goal. If I can do that, then that's a win, you know, and
Yeah.
then, you know, keep stacking them. Like, so a big one, a lot of people talk about, I didn't even realize any of this stuff, but, you know, starting a morning routine and
Mm,
using this routine so your day starts off how you want it to. And so one
mm.
of the things I do is like, you know, set my alarm. When my alarm goes off, my inner dialogue is already like, get up, you know, get this
What
one
time are
done.
you
Get
waking
this.
up?
What time?
Yeah.
4:40.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, my alarm goes off, and you know, 5 o'clock is my goal to get up. So I set my alarm for
Yeah.
4:40. So even if I'm like, oh man, that was just rough yesterday, you know, hit the snooze. Okay, I'm up at 4:50. Bam. My goal was to get up by 5. You know, so I'm still getting this win, and it's like, okay, let's get up. Let's. Some of the stuff I do is like I go read, and I read personal professional development. So immediately, it's just putting positive stuff into my
Yeah.
head. Gratitude right when my feet hit the floor, like, you know, thank you for another day, thank you for my family, you know, because I used to wake up and it would just be like it was anger. I was having conversations that, you know, I was reliving these conversations that I had, you know, years ago. I was reliving these moments that, you know, whatever, just it was so irrelevant. And by the time I caught on to what I was doing, I had built this situation so much, built it up so much in my head that it wasn't even real anymore, you know? And so catching on to that and just like, okay, I'm just going to be grateful for what I have and not go do all this other stuff. So yeah, setting stacking these wins first thing in the morning, uh, reading, writing, meditate. We just had a big call on that, man. I love that stuff. Like
Really.
sitting down and visualizing where I'm at and where I want to be, and then going and getting some exercise. Like the the benefits of just hitting the gym. I'm big into jujitsu, you know that, but like just going, hitting the gym, learning something new, getting the blood flowing, releasing endorphins. Like the reason I'm up at 4:40 every morning is so I can get this stuff done. So by the time I go to work, or by the time my kids are getting up and eating breakfast, like I've set the tone for my day. I've set the pace for my day. And so these things that, you know, pop up in the middle of the day that you weren't expecting, it's not that big of a deal because I've already won so much before lunch that one little setback, it's not a big deal. You know, I'm still ahead of the game.
Wow. Wow, I'm definitely gonna go back on that replay and take some notes there. So I definitely challenge anybody that's listening in or watching this recording to really take some time to just think about what TJ said. I mean, people are literally probably paying thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for this kind of advice, but you're giving it to them and it's like real and it's authentic, right? Like you're talking about taking these little micro commitments. And I love how you said, like, these are micro commitments to yourself. It's one thing to get on, you know, social media. It's one thing to get on in just general life and create this like false identity out there. But when you start having that self-awareness and you realize that you're lying to yourself, especially as entrepreneurs or people that just want more out of life, I mean, that hurts. And
Yeah.
I've done that. You know, I've told myself that I was
Yeah, me
more
too.
than I was actually doing, right? And when you start reflecting on some of those lies, it's just like, you know, what are you doing? You know, and the worst person that you can lie to is yourself. So when you're making those micro commitments and you're honoring them, man, that's just like, that's powerful. I mean, that's just talking like you're building up that immense mental fortitude to just withstand, you know, all of the challenges of the day because you're withholding that ultimate commitment to yourself. And if you're withholding that commitment to yourself, you're gonna hold up any commitment to anything else, whether that's, you know, relationships, whether that's, you know, engagements, whatever. You're going to hold those up because you're becoming that kind of person that's just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, mentally fortified. So man, I just absolutely love that you're saying that. So for the people that, so I heard something the other day that I can't remember where I heard it from, but the gentleman basically said that in life, you know, we've got free will, so we're effectively the artist, the paint, and the painting. So meaning that we always, and the art that we're making is never done. So we have an option to basically continue to change, right? Like, but for a lot of people feel like they're just very hard set in their ways, right? They're trying to get into real estate, they're trying to get into some big dream, and they just keep hitting this wall. You know, so for the people that just keep hitting this wall and keep thinking like, hey, it's just how it is, I'm never going to change, they're starting to believe these lies. I mean, what advice do you have for that?
Um, so, man, with that specifically, I disagree 100%. Like, you're gonna hit walls. That's the point. You know, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're trying to grow. You know, when you hit these walls, I talked about this before. You can go over, you can go under, you can go around, or you can go through. You know, but instead of hitting this wall and saying, "Well, I guess this is where I stop." The thing that I've noticed is like when you're at a level, everybody is at a level. No, you know what? You know, it doesn't matter where you began, you have grown to a certain point. And a lot of people, I don't think they quite realize that at that point, at some time in their life, they just stopped. And it's not that they quit living or anything like that. You know, they got a job they got comfortable with, they still have their dreams, they're just not chasing them. And so that's that wall. And the whole idea is to figure out this next problem. And it might be over, it might be under, it might be around, it might be through, but don't stop at that next wall. Figure out your problem, go on to the next level. And once you get there, there's going to be that natural stopping point, that next wall. And it's going to be a different obstacle. You know, it might not be a wall this time, but there's going to be something else there. And that's the whole idea. This is how we continue our growth through life is, okay, I've made it past all these gates. How do I get past this next one? And this
Mm,
is how you're going to keep growing. It's the same way you're building a company, you know, like you can start selling lemonade as a kid and like, okay, yeah, I did pretty good, but you're not going to turn that into a multi-billion-dollar company. You know, you have to figure out the next problem. Like, okay, maybe lemonade isn't my niche. You know, maybe it's something else. And then you're going to hit new problems. You need more employees. You know, shipping's messed up, whatever it is, marketing. You know, all these different things. You're just figuring out these problems as you go, and that is what is progressing you to the next level. And you just take that concept and you can apply it to any of this.
yeah, so this is a good question. I'm not sure who asked this. You got to set up the StreamYard so we can see your name, but it says, are you an avid believer that without failure there is no growth? That you need struggle to recognize true happiness? That's a good question. It's a really good question.
So, let's see. Without failure, there's no growth.
That's some
Yeah,
philosophical stuff right there, man.
yeah. I think I think failure is a part of life no matter what you do. You're gonna fail. And it's up to you on if you want to quit or if you just want to have failed that one time.
Yeah.
Because quitting and failing are two completely different things. Quitting after you do it, it's like slipping into a warm bath after the first time. Like it's just comfortable and relaxing. Things get hard, yeah, just go ahead and quit again. You know, if you fail, you know, okay, you failed. That's not how you do it. Sit down, do a quick AAR. What worked for me? What didn't? Okay, these three things worked. These three things didn't. I'm going to drop those and I'm going to try three new things and I'm going to get past this failure. And yes, I do think, you know, struggle, it might not be how you recognize true happiness, but I think struggle is a part of life. And when you start getting comfortable, you start getting complacent. So you might hit a point to where, you know, yes, I've struggled, but I made it here. And that's what I'm talking about. You made it to that level. Don't get complacent and stay at that level and just be like, well, this is the wall. I've never been able to get past it. You have to figure out that next struggle to grow past that. And I think it's the journey. Mark talks about this a lot. It's the journey of the growth, you know, just see how far you can keep going. Yeah, exactly. You never fail until you quit. You know, you just keep going and keep going. But these people, this is in my humble opinion, people who get this like massive depression and all this stuff, it's like you're not testing yourself, you're not pushing yourself, you're not getting uncomfortable anymore. You're just building this box around you. So you have to go challenge yourself. You have to go struggle. You have to go get uncomfortable, do things you're unfamiliar with, fail, figure it out, realize your potential of all this stuff that you can do just by getting out of your comfort zone. And then you're like, that's when you start building this confidence, and that's where you start getting this happiness from.
Man, that's so good. And yeah, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, you know, can you have happiness without struggle? I mean, that's such a good question, because I think the two just kind of coexist. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I mean, there's tons of super successful people that are, you know, depressed. They're not happy. There's no struggle, you know, and that's when you have to hit that point where it's like, okay, I need to go challenge myself with something else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like what you said earlier. I mean, you're waking up, and when your feet hit the ground, you're making that choice for gratitude. I know, like, you know, here in this group, you know, you see a lot of people posting their deals and, you know, posting their wins and things like that. And it's real easy to think, you know, my life isn't a success, because, you know, you're sitting there measuring yourself up against someone else that you have no idea what they're going through. And you're measuring yourself against other people's standards. But, you know, when you wake up and you're just grateful, and I think it's hard, like, that gratitude is something that's very difficult. I struggled with that, because in my mind, by being grateful, it was almost like I was becoming complacent. And it really was like a big battle, because I didn't want to say that I was grateful, because if I was grateful, that means that I was complacent. I was settling. But then once I realized, you know, obviously, that you can still be grateful, and that doesn't mean that you're complacent. It just means
grateful but not satisfied.
Exactly. It means that you recognize that at this very moment that everything is okay. You have a lot of things to be in admiration of. You know, there's different beauties, like, right? Like, I'm looking outside and the sky's blue. I'm grateful to literally be alive. You know, I'm grateful to have a wife.
Getting up and breathing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's what that means. But that doesn't mean that I'm still not a shark, and I'm not going to go out here and do what sharks do. So I love that you say that. And someone said, don't be afraid to fail, learn from it. Yeah, the failure is definitely part of the journey. So I know we're coming up on the 20-30 minute marker. Can you give us some actionable steps coming into the new year? Some of the stuff that you're doing now in preparation, and then I'd love to talk about Wooby Hoody too, and how that was founded, and give you a little spotlight there.
Okay. So some of the things I started doing, I talked a little bit about my 1-year challenge on Instagram. I'm working on a second one right now, and this is something, looking back, like, I realized there was another pivotal point in my life, but I did this 1-year challenge of, like, I'm going to stop drinking, because I think it's just a part of being in the military. You know, you're a professional drinker on top of everything else. So I was like, I'm going to stop drinking, and I'm only going to focus on positive stuff. So I always had the TV on. It was always on the news. I was always just pissed off about stuff. You know, there was always something to be pissed off about.
Yeah.
So I made this commitment, 365 days, no drinking, focus on work, and just being positive. So I changed my playlist, my music, because I noticed a lot of the music, I like country music. So, you know, grew up in Kansas, but, you know, it's just depressing.
The joke, that's what I always say. There's a joke about country music. If you rewind it, if you play it backwards, the guy gets his boat, his car, his girl back. So.
Yep. Car's not dead anymore.
His truck, not his car.
Yeah. So I changed my playlist. I started listening to podcasts. I actually like actively started reading, started paying attention to what I was putting into my head. It's like a diet, you know. If
Yeah.
you're eating fast food and candy and garbage all the time, you're gonna feel like shit. Well, my diet was good, my workouts were good, but I was feeding my brain shit. So I just I switched all that up, shut off the TV, audiobooks, and it was just positivity constantly. And I think that was one of the biggest shifts that I made, that I really noticed a difference in my day-to-day life. You know, the gratitude was still there, the learning, the being uncomfortable, making sure that I had a struggle, something, whatever it is, if it's just going to the gym, push yourself a little harder in your workout, trying to get the next stripe, next belt in jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. But then just being aware of the conversations I'm having, what is playing, like what I'm listening to,
Man, that's
who
good.
I'm hanging around. Is it benefiting me? Is it serving me? Or is it bringing me down? And once you start paying attention to this little scale of positivity and negativity, like you really start to feel it when that negativity starts creeping in. And I just cut it and like, nope, I'm out of here. I'm going somewhere else. Go
I
back
love
to
that, man.
gratitude, put a good song on, go
That's
read a
good.
book.
That's good. So basically, what you're saying is that you're basically constantly auditing. Like you're
Yeah.
constantly like, hey, is this good for me? Is this not? Like I think for a lot of us, myself included, you can get up in this like kind of time warp where you don't even realize that you've wasted so much time doing a lot of stuff that's not going to benefit you, and you just kind of end up in this constant like hamster wheel where the next
Yeah.
day it's the same thing, right? But until you make that conscious decision to say, all right, I got to wake up, I got to get out of the matrix, I got to start auditing my friends, I got to start auditing, what I'm listening to, right? Like it's real easy to stay in that negative trance where you're just like, you're listening to your favorite songs and it's just like, wait a minute, like all they're talking about is literally going to the whatever,
Yeah.
doing this or doing that, and like turn on a
Yeah.
podcast, listen to something
His
positive.
girlfriend left him too. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
is it a win?
Yeah, exactly. No wins whatsoever. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, man. That's so good. I think a lot of people are going to get a ton of value from that coming into the new year. So yeah, I want to talk about Wooby Hoodie, how that was founded, and you kind of touched on that a little bit, and then what your goals and visions are with that, and then real estate.
So I think it was, I don't know, end of 2018, early 2019. I think it was into 2018 we started working on it. But the Wooby is the poncho liner from the military. They issue it to you as part of your basic issue that you get, and it's called your Wooby because it's like a little kid's blanket. Like you don't go anywhere. You little 2-year-old walking around with their little Wooby, and they have it with them all the time. And that's what they tell you when you join the military is like, don't go anywhere without your Wooby. So this thing's always shoved in the bottom of your rucksack. Wherever you're at, you have this little blanket with you. And I just kind of took that with me. And, when I started contracting, my carry-on backpack, it always went right in the bottom of the carry-on and pack everything else. And then started traveling around. I spent about 4 years just traveling the world when I wasn't working. And again, it was like I had a carry-on backpack. That's the only thing I took. And that thing was the very first thing to get packed, and just came in handy so many times, like saved my ass countless times. So we were always talking about, building a jacket or a hoodie from it because it's just so comfortable. And I started looking for one, and I searched the whole internet, and I think I found one site and they were sold out. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, well, there's something to this. I want one. I've had this conversation a million times. I'm a grown man that flies around with my little blanket with me all the time. So there's definitely something to this. And we just took that, turned it into a hoodie, and we just kept growing and expanding. And we're starting to find more people who are interested, and we're plugging them in the right places. We're, stepping up our email campaigns has been a huge one. Marketing, getting bigger on social media, and then just customer service, I think is our biggest thing that we do. We're constantly responding. When you order from us, typically it goes out the next day. Try to add value in every single one of our packages. And that's it. We're just been totally grassroots, just building it from zero. I remember I sold my first one and was like, oh shit, I'm a salesman now.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, last but not least, so what are some of your real estate goals?
So right now I'm looking at multifamily and storage units.
Okay.
I'm up here in North Idaho, and it's pretty tricky up here. Our market is a lot different than most places. It's a little resort town, so
Oh, wow.
everything, like, we haven't really been hit by the rising interest rates or anything else. Everything's still very expensive.
Wow.
So yeah, just shopping for deals, and I think that's where I want to go next is multifamily and storage units. I just think there's a lot of potential up here specifically. I mean, there's a lot of potential in that anyways, but yeah, that's been my main focus uh, as of lately.
Nice. Nice. I love it. Yeah. I'm sure we'll connect on that sometime soon.
Sounds good.
But yeah, man, this one's definitely been this will be up there in one of the favorite ones. I'm gonna go back myself and watch this and learn from you. Man, it's just an honor. You're a very outstanding individual, and I don't tell you that enough. So a little bromance here, but man, I'm always watching everything you're putting out and just
Appreciate it.
digesting it myself because it's all good stuff. And I know you mean well. You've got a huge heart. You love your family. You love your nation, and man, I'm just in deep admiration of you. So I really appreciate you taking time to do this and pour into our audience and everybody that's going to see this on the reels and all the other stuff, all the cool stuff. But yeah, man, I can't thank you enough. Really, really an honor.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, any closing remarks for the team?
I'm good. Let's go get it. 2023.
All right, let's do it. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.